back. Is Honorable Mao's disappointing news?
Disappointing to who? In the first place, was there anything that Mao was promising to Ugandans? I think it was just hot air. Right from the word go, the talk of reforms, especially reforms driven and championed by a regime functionary like Mao, were a farce. So I don't know why people are excited about this, and then you're talking about disappointment, you are talking about dampening people's hopes and so on and so forth. It was hot air. It was just a farce. There was nothing. Actually, Mao ought to have resigned from cabinet. The day Museveni threw that egg in his face. You know, Mao treated Ugandans to a bluff when he said that the reason he had joined the Museveni regime was to champion that reform agenda, electoral reforms. So Museveni disowned the Mao project, the Mao reform agenda, and said, please, I hear Mao, you are talking about these things of transition. Who told you that we are all about that? Who gave you that assignment? It was a huge embarrassment to Mao if he had any shame left. Because all through, Mao was projecting himself like he had been assigned that duty by General Museveni to facilitate a transition, a peaceful transfer of power from Mr. Museveni to a duly elected president. So that is exactly what Mao was propagating. But Museveni disowned it. And Mao, instead of swallowing his humble pie and tell Ugandans, I'm sorry, I lied to you, he just chickened out. Surprisingly, he continued with a lie and said that now there are reforms, that he has taken them to cabinet. Then you ask him, unpack those reforms you are talking about. By the way, actually, when you go to the specifics, what is it that he's talking about? If anything, actually, it's only one thing I heard he was talking about, Ssemujju enhancing the capacity of the biometric voter verification machines, and that is all. Maybe also loosely talked about something like term limits and so on and so forth. That is buffoonery of, I'm sorry to use that strong term, it's buffoonery of the highest order. So Mao should swallow his humble pie, tell Ugandans that he lied to the nation. Of course, he was trying to cover up his deal. There was nothing like a pack of reforms he was championing. And therefore, he should have resigned. Otherwise, for us, I want to speak on behalf of my two colleagues who are in the studio there. I want to speak on behalf of everybody at Katonga, or all of us. We have told you a million times, for us, we do not have any business with whatever Mao is talking about, electoral reforms. We do not stop anyone pursuing whatever reforms they want, but for us, we believe reforms for and in themselves cannot usher in the much needed transition or change that we want as a country. The trajectory we have taken as a country, where you have a personal rule, where Museveni is entrenching his life presidents, where you have a military regime, there is no way you can talk about reforms.
Very much, Lord Mayor. I'll certainly
talk about electoral or legal reforms they can change anything.
I'll certainly
in a multi-party dispensation.
Thank you very much for your opinion. as someone who is in the corridors of power, was there any discussion around electoral reforms, or Mao was simply advancing a big lie?
Well, we have told Ugandans, and even on this show, I've said, and the president has said so, that our biggest reform was when we made the constitution, even with the amendments and the electoral laws as that are in place are sufficient to deliver us a good electoral process and outcome, and even the transition from NRM party to another group, if Ugandans elect that group and deny the NRM the vote. Like we have seen, where people have voted other parliamentary candidates other than NRM, they have been permitted by the law, by the constitution, to take their seats in various organs of government. So anybody who wants a big reform, let them use that constitution. Let them mirror it against the performance of NRM and President Museveni, and you deny us the vote, we shall hand over power peacefully. So the question of electoral reform, the question of constitutional reform, the question of peaceful, transfer of power really shouldn't arise. The NRM, the day you defeat NRM will hand over power. So concentrate on that.
Yeah, but Mao has often said...
Now, I have also said on this show that the legislative agenda of government is usually lined up, contained in the State of the Nation address by the President. Go back to June last year, when the President delivered the State of the Nation address at the opening of this session of Parliament. There is nowhere where the President said we are going to have electoral reform law bill coming to Parliament. It's not there. Go and check it. I have said that on this show many times. So when Honorable Mao came up that he is writing something for electoral reform, he was talking in the corridors, outside the corridors of government. He was talking in other corridors. He was going to donors, other fora, seminars, and saying so. And I came on this show and I said, although I don't sit in the cabinet, I am privy to some of the documents, because usually when a cabinet paper is written, is presented, cabinet has decided something, they extract cabinet minutes. And I get some of them. And I said, I have not seen the draft proposal of Honorable Mao. I have not seen a cabinet paper by Honorable Mao about electoral reform or even constitutional reform. And therefore, such a document doesn't exist.
So he's been peddling lies, speculation?
I will not use those words. I think you should have been fair, or even magnanimous. The term Honorable Ssemujju doesn't want me to use on President Museveni. You should have invited Honorable Mao, because you are the one quoting him that has been saying, and we have all been hearing him. We should have called him here to tell the public, or even to show where is that draft.
Okay, Mao.
I have talked.
Mao went to Parliament and said he presented it to cabinet, and the cabinet.
I am saying
they're not interested.
I am saying I have not seen any cabinet paper written by the Minister of Justice to the effect proposing that these are the things that we want. I am not privy to it. I am not aware. And therefore, that question should be answered by Mao. And when I'm talking about for the government, I'm saying the government of Uganda, its position is known by the legislative agenda the President outlines at the State of the Nation address, or along the way, he can seek the intervention of the Speaker and says, stop gap, or stop press, as we would say. The cabinet would want to bring the following. He can do that mid-session of Parliament. I'm not privy. The second one is cabinet memorandum, cabinet paper.
Yeah, but
Cabinet
Mao
memorandum.
said he presented it before cabinet and Chris Baryomus was tasked.
I am saying, ask Honorable Mao, let him now, invite him the next show and say, show us the draft of that cabinet paper,
These are confidential
which you say cabinet either turned down or is not interested in. If he's kind enough, he will give you that draft if he thinks, if indeed it exists. So that's what I'm saying. But as far as I know, there is no cabinet paper on electoral reforms. There is no cabinet minute on electoral reform. So I will take. I didn't hear him on the floor of Parliament, but I'm willing to receive it if it is there. So the cabinet, the government position is outlined in the State of the Nation Address. Should there be, in any case, Uganda is here. Should the president and cabinet determine that indeed electoral reform is necessary, we are having in 2 months' time another State of the Nation Address. The president will outline the legislative agenda between of this coming financial year.
So what I deduce from whatever you're saying is that Mao has been peddling empty talk all this while.
Those are your words. I am saying I have not seen, I am not privy, and indeed there is no cabinet minute on electoral reforms.
Thank you. Honorable Salam.
Yeah.
Were you among the Ugandans who were keen on electoral reforms
but the people who want electoral reform, for example, from opposition, they have members of parliament. Let them bring the proposals on electoral reform, and NRM in parliament will gladly engage with those proposals.
Honorable Salam, I want to bring you on.
Yeah.
Going by what OO is saying, and versus what Mao has been preaching, who is fooling who?
You see, there's a history to the request and the necessity for electoral reforms. But government doesn't have the appetite for it, because what is in place serves its dubious electoral manipulations very well. You will recall that under IPOD, electoral reforms were presented by the FDC then as the leader of the opposition, and presented to IPOD as proposed, so that they could create consensus in order to quickly process it through Parliament, because that was the purpose of IPOD. At that time, it was Honorable Migereko and Honorable Amama Mbabazi that were in charge, and they disowned. They disowned the entire process and bastardized the whole process. And so Mao, I wonder what prompted him to think that he had the magic bullet to be able to move a process.
Did you ever have any hope in him?
I did have some hope. I thought he was serious in the presentation, because you can't tell such a white lie when you don't own the government.
So you fell for a lie?
I didn't fall for it. I allowed him space to prove to me that actually his joining government meant to serve a bigger good than his personal good. So as it has come to pass, it was nothing. Shamefully nothing. Shamefully nothing. And you know, people should stop playing about with the aspirations of us who believe that it is no good going to the bush.
But you should perhaps give it to him that he was able to face Parliament and speak the truth without delaying the country any further. Now you know the fate.
How come he didn't know earlier on? Because he's old enough and experienced enough to know that nothing has changed about this NRM government, and nothing is about to change. And so we have lived on lie after lie after lie. You see, the way they stampede electoral reforms and constitutional amendments, the way they stampede, that they can even amend a constitution in one afternoon. If they have, because they use their numbers as a weapon against the people of Uganda. And so, Honorable Mao needed a life support mechanism, and that presentation gave him that until now.
Honorable Ssemujju, how much benefit did you give to Honorable Mao in the first instance when he said he's coming in now as a disciple who's going to push for electoral reforms and the transition?
I think if you allow me, before I discuss Mao, when the Honorable Otafire was Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, he did propose a constitutional review commission to the president and went ahead even to propose people to sit on it. I think he had proposed either the Honorable Ben Watch or Honorable Wandero Galo to chair it, to look at the constitution. Because there are many things that we need to have a conversation about. We are at the meeting with the National Bureau of Statistics to receive information and some analysis about the population census. Ofonopono comes from Tororo.
Namulanda.
Their district is about 300,000 people. It has 9 MPs. Kampala, with 2.5 million people, has 10 MPs. Ofono has 9 with 300,000. Karamoja, with 1.5 million people, it is represented by 26 million people.
26 MPs.
26 MPs. Wakiso, with 3.5 million people, we are 9. So these reforms goes beyond the bill, I mean the acts for parliamentary presidential. I am studying and finalizing my response as the Shadow Minister of Finance to the budget. Under the President's office, the RDCs now have grown to 700. The districts have remained 146. But the RDCs are 700.
Including deputies and assistants?
Yes, assistants. You know, in Fonopono's district, they have a constituency called South Budama, West North East.
Sorry?
They have a constituency called South Budama, North East, West East.
Is that true?
That's how they became 9. 300,000 people.
Honorable Ssemujju is being cavalier, humorously so.
So tell us what it is. Foxodo is constituency.
Northeast.
It's not northeast.
West Budama, because that's the name of the
so you start with West Budama?
No, West Budama is the name of the county.
No, you start with
yes.
West Budama, northeast.
West Budama is the name of our county, like you would have Chadundu. It's West Budama, as opposed to East Budama, which is the Teso side now. So that constituency, that West Budama was divided into 2 constituencies. West Budama North and West Budama South. Then in 2020, the 2 constituencies were subdivided. West Budama South was subdivided into West Budama Central and West Budama South. West Budama North was subdivided into West Budama North and West Budama North.
Is he saying something different from what I said?
So there is West Budama Northeast.
Yes. So Ssemujju is being simply.
You start with West Budama, Northeast. So the point I make, Simon, is that...
I think that's hilarious.
No, I am telling you, where M7 has support, he will make villages, because they are choosing a Obote of gerrymandering. But you've surpassed him. That you can have 300,000 people represented by 9 MPs. and you have 3.5 million people represented by the same number. You have Kampala, 2.5 million people, 10 MPs. Karamoja, 1.5 million people, 26 MPs. And then they will say NRM has numbers in parliament. And then you have the NRM candidate who deploys the state during campaigns. I have told you he grew the list of RDCs, the districts, because RDCs are a creature of the constitution. But he has found a way of now making them 700 with assistants, with the deputy, and then mobilizers are on the list, on payroll of State House. So we need to have a conversation because of foreign opponents. When you defeat us, we'll hand over power. Yeah. But we don't go with you in a normal election.
So that's exactly the conversation Mao has been heralding for a while.
And I want now to come to Mao, because before I blame Mao, I want to blame the person who is responsible for all this.
Us from West Pudama, Northeast.
Yes, Southeast, North, something. So I want to blame the person who is responsible, because before Mao, you had the Otafire, at one time Mururi Mukasa. They even appointed a Constitutional Review Commission. Because I have given you an area of constituencies, you now have districts. You have, someone told me earlier that you have a woman MP who came from somewhere with about 8,000, so the voters in a district. The administrative units, the representation at parliament, you still have the military there. Who vote with NRM. I remember the Honorable Kadaga had difficulties seating them. Where do they sit? Because when Parliament became multi-party, and the constitution, and in the rules you have the government side and opposition side. She was asking where will the military sit?
But Honorable Ssemujju, there was a precedent, the multi-party Parliament of 1984 July. It was a multi-party parliament. It had UPC, it had DP, it had the UPM, that parliament of second Obote. And it had 10 members of the army, UNLA. Kadaga could have gone, Honorable Kadaga should have gone to the president of that parliament. How was the army sitting in that parliament?
We are the only
Constitution.
That constitution of 1967 as amended, under which that election, UNLA sat in that parliament.
We are the only country in Africa that has military representation.
So by extension, Mao is a victim of the system.
I am coming to Mao, that he joined an old conversation that had been unsettled, and the problem is Museveni. When Mao joined, he said there was an understanding that the things that the Otafires, the Mururi Mukasas, that his negotiation with Museveni was actually to make these things happen. I told him when he came here that memorandum for me was an appointment letter.
The cooperation agreement,
yeah, that's what I told him here, that I didn't see anything beyond that. And Museveni confirmed. Museveni, when he was commenting about it, he said for him, he works with everybody, works with his relatives, works. So Mao joining cabinet was just to allow him also to be part of government, but not because they had agreed on a number of things. So that's as far as I look at Honorable Norbert Mao. And I did not believe that the Museveni who betrayed the Kategaya, who betrayed the Vestiges, the Muntu, the Mushegas, people who at that time were working together they were vulnerable collectively, made a sacrifice collectively, and then agreed that when we get power, we need to do the following. That you can have an agreement changing the mindset of that person. who has reneged on all the undertakings he made, even with his colleagues, some of them very close to him, that an outsider now, Mao, would be the one. When he went to meet religious leaders after the 2016 elections, when he wanted to take a photograph with Besigye, photo, all the, in all our discussions, he said, I need to meet Besigye and these things will happen. Because Besigye knows Museveni, so he denied that. But when he met religious leaders, because at that time you had the women, the situation room, you had the Ogola of the Elders Forum, and then you got the Interreligious Council. At that time, Museveni was very angry because he had a number of people telling him, you need a dialogue, you need to sort out these things. See, the dialogue is there. There is iPod, there is this thing of electoral commission, there is everything. When he met religious leaders, he started also accusing them. He said, you Mubaje, you sold the properties of Muslims. Have you had a dialogue with them? Then he went to the Catholics. Then in the end, the topic we started with of money. He gave the late Archbishop money for a circle and money for Namugongo. Then he gave Mubaje money for something else. So the conversation about a dialogue to sort out the... So if Museveni cannot respect the religious leader, he cannot respect the situation room. He cannot respect the elders. He cannot respect his contemporaries. Did anyone believe, even for a second, that Mao was going to be the magic bullet that to deliver? It was just a joke.
Okay, the transition bid failed. The reforms bid failed. What's now left for Mao?
To correct himself from where he is, I don't know, because at least now he has settled in.
Well,
and I don't think there are many people who are going, because at the beginning there were questions. So you were joining under what arrangement? And the arrangement was a transition.
Lord Mayor, is it time for the country now to interrogate what was in the cooperation agreement between Norbert Mao and the NRM?
Honestly speaking, that debate would be irrelevant because it would be foolhardy for us as a nation to get embroiled in that love letter Museveni wrote for Mao, the appointment letter the Honorable Ssemujju is talking about. Because for intents and purposes, there is virtually nothing. Museveni just created the window to conscript Mao into the fold, to bring him within the cabinet, and to supplement the Honorable Ssemujju's submission. Actually, it was just about balancing. It was about regional balance. Was wanted even to have the Achoris also in the cabinet. That's what Mr. Museveni said. So do we really need to discuss that? The central focus would be about the deep crisis we are embroiled in as a nation. Because right now, I would pose a question to all of us. There was talking about following the constitutional path to usher in the much needed transition. The question I would ask, and it's a $1 million question, which kind of constitutional order do we have right now? Which constitutional order? You have a constitution that has been corrupted, that has been bastardized, that has been adulterated, with all the safety nets removed, term limits, age limit, and what you can talk about. So the document which was adopted on the 8th day of October 1995, right now has since become a mere paper tiger. So that is the crisis you have, that you have a document on the one hand which purports to be the instrument guiding the political processes in the country, but what is obtaining on the ground is a totally different trajectory. You have Mr. Museveni governing outside the purview of the Constitution. So that is the crisis we are having. So getting the country back onto the rail, onto the constitutional path, that is the critical challenge we are having. So How do we deal with this issue? What kind of conversation can we have? Because Museveni has closed all the doors within the parameters of the constitution to have a transition, save for only one, that is Article 3 of the Constitution. It's the only one now available. So the conversation will be about how do we now get back our sovereign authority as a nation, using the mandate, and rather actually invoking the command made by the Constitution under the provisions of Article 3. How do we regain our sovereign authority as a country, as a nation, to be able to chart a way forward, to take charge of the destiny of our country? That is the conversation we must be having, not those mere pieces of paper which Mao signed with Mr. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. That would be a useless debate, I'm sorry, with all due respect.
Final nail in the discussion around electoral reforms. What is the fate of the forthcoming elections?
Hello? Come again?
Now that Honorable Mao has pronounced himself that there are no reforms, what kind of elections are Ugandans going into come 2026?
Well, you already have the template of Kawempe elections. You don't need to go very far. That's the template you're going to have in 2026, where JAT will move in, club everyone, where the results will be falsified. You remember the results which were being read out before cameras, where the NRM candidate, Nambi Farida, had scored like a 70, they would add another 0 to make it 700. That's what is going to happen. Where everybody was beaten up, and you ended up with a turn-up of 14%. And in the aftermath of that horrible election, that bogus election, with all due respect, you get a very disturbing statement from the chairman of the Electoral Commission that let Parliament amend the law and make voting compulsory. How outrageous can one be? Article 59 of the Constitution makes it a right. Indeed, if I'm to go to the polls to exercise my right to choose who should be my leader, it's my prerogative. It's my right. Now, how do you make it a command? I don't know how ridiculous this man sounded. I don't know whether I actually believed in it. Instead of interrogating the issues causing voter apathy, that public despondence, why people are now shunning elections, why they have become fast, why they have become, something which is useless, he's coming up with outrageous recommendations. So you are not going to have elections in 2026. Today, we are in April. The electoral laws are very clear that potential candidates, those are the aspirants, have got a right to canvass, not canvassing support, to consult the electorate, at least a year to the nomination exercise. Nominations are just around the corner in September. Public meetings are banned. Not even a single individual can hold, not even indoor meetings. So which kind of election is that?
Well, Lord Mayor.
So you were talking about, the amendments like Mao is, probably what Mao should have been talking about. The structural interdicts that were made way back in 2016 in the Amama Mbabazi decision, that petition Amama Mbabazi filed, and the Supreme Court, after dismissing the petition in 2016, highlighted a number of areas that required fine-tuning. To date, not even a single issue raised in those structural interdicts has been addressed by the executive or parliament. So which kind of election is that you are going to have?